latest episode of Call Her Daddy features a lengthy interview with Oscar-winning actress Charlize Theron. Entitled I Don't Need a Man, in it, Miss Theron explains how she reacts to people criticising her for being a single mum.
I want to just look at them and just be like, do you know how fucking great it is to live exactly how I want to live, to experience motherhood exactly how I wanted to experience it? And I know the next thing they say is like, well, that's not fair on your kids. Can I tell you something? That will be their story to tell. I can't tell you. I can only tell you that this is the best way that I know how to be a mother to them. And maybe they'll grow up and tell their story, and I will respect that.
Well, she also wanted audiences to know how liberating it is for her children not to have a father.
I love that I don't have to run every fucking thing by a guy. I love that I don't have to, well, oh my God, co-parent. I fucking love that I don't have to do any of that stuff. And my children, we joke, listen, I think you can tell, this is how I raise my kids.
Yeah.
Right? We don't hide this shit.
But don't worry, while Charlize doesn't think husband or father is important in life, she hasn't given up on men altogether.
I found this freedom in my 40s where I'm like, oh my God. So I just want to say this in perspective. I've probably had 3 one-night stands in my entire life.
Okay.
But I did just recently fuck a 26-year-old, and it was really fucking amazing.
Fuck yes.
Yes. And I've never done that. And I was like, oh, this is great. Okay.
Let me just say that 26-year-old is the luckiest fucking man walking on this goddamn planet. He's walking different today, knowing, oh my God.
He for sure is not, but thank you.
No, he is.
Well, the episode's been viewed by nearly 1 million people so far. Reaction's been divided between those who celebrate Charlize as, quote, a powerful badass, epitome of a strong woman fighting against the evil patriarchy, and others who, in equally strident language, view the whole episode as yet another example of modern feminist media denigrating the role of men at every given opportunity, all of which makes it a good starting point for a lively debate. Well, joining me for this Battle of the Sexes, host of the Crucible podcast, Andrew Wilson, who I could imagine was visibly shuddering as he listened to those clips. Jedediah Bila, who's the host of the Jedediah Bila Show, commentator and author of The Case for Cancel Culture, Ernest Owens, and the editor of the User Mag newsletter, Taylor Lorenz. Well, welcome to all of you. And Jedediah, welcome to you especially because you're making your uncensored debut. We always like debutantes. I'm always astonished.
Thank you very much, PIERS.
Always astonished when people come back for more. But thank God they do. And thank God Andrew Wilson does. Andrew, your thoughts on Charlize Theron? She doesn't need a man. She likes banging 26-year-olds when she feels like it. You don't need fathers in life. You just need a strong, badass woman.
Well, it's really funny. The reason nobody cares really very much when a 40-year-old attractive woman has sex with some random young man is because it's not impressive. It's impressive when men can bang young women because most men can't bang young women, but most older women can bang young men. So it's just not an impressive accomplishment. Of course, these are the same women who will screech because, Leonardo DiCaprio decides that he wants to change up, at 25 years old, any of the broads he has hanging around. But this is not an impressive accomplishment. All a woman needs to do to get laid is go somewhere where there's men and offer it up. It's not the case for men. So it's an unimpressive accomplishment on its face. As to the rest of what she's saying, this is just normal tripe, right? Her kids are the ones who are going to get punished. They're always the ones who get punished. We can look at the data for outcomes on children who are raised in single mother homes. It's not good. It's not good for their mental health. It's not. And by the way, the rates of abuse from having strange men around skyrocket. Terrible idea. And it's exactly the wrong kind of propaganda to be pushing.
All right, Taylor Lorenz, isn't it just a factual reality of life that women are predominantly happier with a man by their side and children are predominantly better off in life with a present father?
I think, listen, children are better off in life when they have a loving household, and not all of those households have fathers. I mean, there are lesbian parents, there are, different types of arrangements. I think it's important for kids to have different figures in their life who they can look up to. I think it's really important to expose kids to all different types of figures, but that doesn't have to be, like a man, a cisgender man that's standing around all the time. There's plenty of terrible fathers out there too. So, yeah, I think it's great that that the child is growing up in a loving household, and hopefully, she'll expose the child to lots of different types.
Yeah, but
of
can you acknowledge that we have now been studying this phenomenon of single motherhood for years and years and years, and that the outcomes for children of single mothers tend to be terrible in comparison to the outcomes of children without them? Can you just acknowledge that that is true?
So I think what you're talking about are studies.
I'm asking a question. Don't run from the question. Yes or no? I want you to acknowledge with a yes or no, then a qualifier. Yes or no? Isn't it true that outcomes for children when they're raised by single mothers tend to be worse than those with a mother and a father in the house? Yes or no? Then give me your answer.
So I'd love to respond if you stop talking over me.
Go ahead.
Anyway, most single mothers are not Charlize Theron with millions and millions and millions of dollars. So when you look at studies like that, a lot of it has to do with the economic opportunities that a lot of single mothers have. Women make less than men as a whole. They're subject to more sexism and discrimination. So it can often be more challenging for them to raise a child alone.
So the answer is yes.
No, the answer is Charlize Theron.
That sounds like you just said that the answer is yes. The answer, according to you just now, is yes.
No, any single
and then you just
parent,
make excuses for it. You're like, yes,
Taylor,
but
this is
because
not
women are oppressed.
Right now. This is so weird. You're like shouting
Taylor,
at me.
can I jump in here,
do you know what it is?
Yeah, okay, let's bring, hang on, time out. Let's bring in Jedediah.
Taylor, this is not rocket science. First of all, you lost me at cis male. You just meet a guy, just a man, right? We don't need all these terms, these nonsensical, ridiculous terms that, modern leftists have come up with. It's just a man. Children do better when there is a mom and there is a dad. And the reason is that men and women are completely different. They bring very different things to the table. And children need the role model of a mom and a dad, not just people around. Sure, you can have aunts, you can have uncles, you can have friends, but we're talking about the two individuals that are raising children. And let me just ask you this question. Wait, I'm not done yet. You complained that Andrew interrupted you, and now you just interrupted me. I'm not done yet. Charlize Theron, you're right. She is rich. She has a ton of money. But what example do you think she's sending to young women everywhere that this is somehow empowering, that you should strive? By the way, you should strive to be the single mom because you don't have to deal with a guy. You don't have to answer to a man. Oh, isn't that so wonderful? And guess who'll pay the price? My kid. She even says, my kids can tell their story. How unbelievably selfish of her to say, my children will one day to get to tell a story that they had no father because I decided that I just wanted to do this myself. Me, myself, and my money. Is that the message?
I wanted to go hump 26-year-olds.
Lesbian. They shouldn't be able to raise children. You need a man. What about women that raise children?
We're not talking about Taylor. No one said what should be
Moms.
allowed. I'm not talking about.
Well, tell you what I find strange. What I find strange is I know Charlize a bit when she was dating Sean Penn, and thought she was very nice, but she was always very elegant. If you interviewed her, her whole thing was high-end, elegant, all the highest-end advertising and so on. And then you see her there in this podcast, and she's like effing and blinding, talking about banging 26-year-olds. Very, very different, Ernest, to the Charlize Theron I thought I knew. I'm not saying it's good, bad, or whatever, but I do wonder if it was a male movie star sitting on a sofa, brazenly boasting about banging 26-year-olds. How old is Charlize? 50. If a 50-year-old male star was boasting about banging 26-year-old girls, right, and he was boasting about not needing a woman in his life, not needing a mother, all these kind of things, but in reverse, I don't think you'd be approving of this, Ernest.
I mean, for starters, I'm all for if it's about consent and respect. They do it all the time. A lot of older men do it all the time on media, on social media, in interviews. It's not actually an uncommon thing. I think the reason why there's a lot of actual shock and awe over Charlize Theron because a lot of women actually her age don't feel the liberty to do that on a public facing platform. And so that's why we're talking about her. We don't talk about men who do it often on here because it's so norm. I mean, if you look at who's in politics currently right now, they were just doing it their entire career before they got to the White House. So it's not that much of a shock. There's a guy who got elected president.
Yeah, and you screamed bloody murder about it.
And got elected. And so.
And you screamed bloody murder about it. What are you talking about? Hang on. You liberals said that was the most horrible thing. He was a terrible role model. How could he? And here's Charlize Theron is saying this, and you're like, she's an empowered boss babe, Andrew. Come on.
See, if I talk over him, Pierce would be tell me to be quiet and get
you were done talking, dude. You were done talking.
Come on,
no,
Ernest.
I wasn't done talking, actually. Can I actually talk?
Oh, man.
You can, Ernest, yeah.
Okay, thanks. So what I was getting at is that there is a double standard. And I think, honestly, like I said before, I don't know what liberal he's talking about, but I was not a liberal that said that Trump talking about grab her by the pussy was the worst thing he ever said, because there's a lot of other things he has said that I believe is far worse and actually should cause more attention. But that being said, I just feel like the only reason why we're talking about it is because women like Charlize Theron often don't do this on a normal. So it feels abnormal, and that's why we're discussing it.
Okay,
Ernest,
Andrew.
Why do these libs talk out of both sides of their mouth? I mean, look at it. She refused to acknowledge the outcomes for single moms. Pivots immediately.
Let's be clear.
Hang on.
Let's be clear.
Immediately. Hang on. Immediately. Yeah. Look, I'm sorry. If you have progressive talking points, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, I call it a duck. So the thing is, right? The libs on the panel very clearly, right? She evades the answer, refuses to give us the answer of if outcomes for children of single moms are worse, refuses, gives us a bunch of qualifiers proving that they are, still refuses to do it. He says, well, this is so commonplace for men. Look at the sexual deviant that we have in the White House, and says, but I'm not throwing a fit about that. I'm not throwing a fit about that, though. Yeah, they did throw a fit about it.
Ineffective discussion. This man is just speaking over everyone. Like, he's very emotional.
It's an ineffective
right
discussion.
Now.
I would like you, I would just like you to actually answer the questions I ask you. Why can't you people ever do that?
I have a question for Ernest.
This is show me more, I guess. Go ahead.
Ernest, you said there was. Hold on a second, guys. Ernest, you said there was a double standard. What are you, in your view, where is the double standard? Because I see a double standard here, but I think we see a different double standard.
Cool. So what I was saying was the double standard reaction, right? There is a lot of reaction because of what Charlize Theron said. I'm saying that I understand where that is coming from, because we don't often see women like Charlize Theron on these platforms talking about their sexuality in this way.
But it's celebrated. Ernest, that's not true. But here's the difference. Every time, hold on a second. Every time a man says, a guy can't even say that he prefers younger women. He can't even say, well, you know what? I prefer younger women because of their fertility is better, because they're in their peak attractiveness, because I want to have a bunch of kids and it gives me more time, without getting completely trashed.
Let's be clear. Hang on. Let's be clear. If Brad Pitt came out with an interview tomorrow on Uncensored, and I hope he does. If you're watching Brad, my show is always available to you. But if he was, and he said, do you know what? Just only last week, I had the most unbelievable sex with a hot 26-year-old, right? Do you think the reaction, Ernest, would have been widespread applause for this guy? Or would it have been, you dirty old man? No. I'm not saying that I feel that about Charlize Theron. I'm just saying that's the double standard, right? Leo DiCaprio gets mocked at every award show because he dates women half his age. Now it's Charlize Theron. Everyone's like, oh, this is amazing.
Piers,
a man would have been called a groomer.
I can give you an example where that backfired. So let me be very clear. So let me give you a good example of this, actually. First of all, it's if it's a pattern, right? Charlize Theron is not doing this on the regular. That's why this is a big news story. She's been mostly in long-term relationships. She does not have a habit of doing this. Leonardo DiCaprio's entire a lot of his romantic history has been this pattern, which has become a running joke. The first couple of years he did it, no one cared. But it's been decades, like over
Ernest,
10 years.
That's not why it's a news story. With respect.
That's your opinion.
That's your opinion. First of all, both of those things have been covered in the news. But the reason, what Pierce is getting at, I think, I don't want to put words in his mouth, this is being celebrated. Do you understand the difference? Modern feminism has made it so that we now celebrate that Charlize Theron. And by the way, I don't give a lick, honestly. It's consensual. I don't care if she sleeps with a 26-year-old.
And by the way, there are a lot of 26-year-old men who will be absolutely thrilled that she's on the cougar market.
That's correct.
I mean, there will be.
And I don't care either. We can agree there. But I'm smart enough to acknowledge that she is being celebrated for that action, whereas a Leonardo DiCaprio, or the average guy for that matter, just saying, hey, I prefer a 22-year-old to a 32-year-old, will get destroyed in every possible
You know what? I actually have no problem with what she said about a 26-year-old. That's entirely down to her. She's a single woman. She can have sex with who the hell she likes if it's consenting an adult. I do, though, have a problem with, and Andrew was, I think, right about this. In a way, what she's saying is all your quaint ideas about you need a bloke around, you need a father, you need a husband. That's all bullshit. Look at me. I'm proof it's all great. I don't believe women when they say that. I don't believe men when they say the same thing. You know, I just think that actually the ideal is that you have a man and woman around kids and they bring them up together. And if that isn't possible and it doesn't work out, okay, you make it work. But to actually try and pretend this is actually utopia and this is the best possible thing for your kids, I don't think that's true. And I say that as a divorcee myself. I don't think this is ever actually the ideal, but you make it work as best you can. I want to switch gears to something which really did annoy me. Lily Allen, the pop star, former pop star, let's be accurate, talking about abortion.
Abortions, I've had a few, right. But then again, I can't remember exactly how many.
What, really?
Yeah.
Why didn't this come up in last week's episode where we were just talking about abortions?
Because I was just letting you run with it.
Reveal everything.
I can't remember, yeah. I think maybe like, I want to say 5, 4 or 5.
Yeah, I've had about 5 too. Lily, I'm so happy I can say that and you can say it and no one came to shoot us down.
No judgment.
No judgment. We've had about the same amount of abortions.
You know what, Taylor? I'm not going to judge them in the way they think I'm going to judge them. I'm not going to judge them for having abortions. I believe in a woman's right to choose what she does with her body. I know, and we'll come to Andrew's position on that. I think we know what it is, and I'll get your view. But the point is, Taylor, I'm not against abortion. I am against women that talk about it so glibly. I am against 2 women sitting there just brazenly talking in a very kind of slightly boastful way. We've had 10 abortions between us, and Lily Allen can't even remember how many abortions she's had. I don't like that aspect to what was going on there. I think it's distasteful. I think it trivializes abortion. Abortion, you know, whether you agree with it or not, you should always treat it, I think, as a serious thing, which should be taken seriously and dealt with seriously. That, to me, was trivializing it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that, I hear you, Piers, and I take your point. I think that most women have a struggle with access to abortion, especially now here in America. And I think that normalizing the idea of having abortion is overwhelmingly a good thing.
We shouldn't normalize the idea of having 5 abortions with 2 women there basically making out, oh, thank God we can talk about this now. It's like this is normal. That's not normal to have 5 abortions.
It should be normal to have easy access to abortion. It should be.
I don't dispute that, but that's a political matter. That's a social matter for the women. But it's the way you talk about it, I think, is actually, for example, in America, where it's a really hot potato issue, I can imagine everyone, I'll come to Andrew for what I think will be his response. I can imagine it. He'll be very angry because he doesn't agree with abortion to start with. To then see women, high-profile women like this, famous women, just talking about it in such a glib manner.
Because they want to restrict women's rights and they want to restrict women's access to healthcare. This is essential. Abortion is essential healthcare. And I understand what you're saying, but it is healthcare, yes. And it's really important.
Ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous. It saves women's lives in many cases to have an abortion. And it's really hard for women to get access to it. And they feel a lot of shame around it because of the social stigma.
Does it sound, Taylor, does it sound to you like those women feel a lot of shame around abortion? Is that what it sounds like?
The point is that many women are taught, and it sounds like you guys on this very panel want women to feel shame about it. And in fact, they should not.
No, you shouldn't be. Should you be proud of it? Is the point. I mean, let me bring Andrew in here. I mean, Andrew, I know your position on abortion, but notwithstanding that, it doesn't really concern me really whether people are for or against it. It's the way they're talking about it, I find. So let's leave the argument about whether they.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
but it's totally self-centered and selfish. And look, she says, "I'm not a lib. Women need to have more abortions." The thing is, have more access to abortions. The lives through her teeth. It's a healthcare procedure. Most women's lives, when they have abortions, has nothing to do with the life of them at all, their physical health at all. Total lies from the left. On top of that, let's just point out that what they're really doing there is they're sitting there going, I just totally murdered 5 of my kids. And the other one's like, yeah, me too. Isn't that great, sweetheart? The other one's like, yeah, totally. That's it's so awesome that we can just kill our children. Isn't that great? And so we normal people, we normal people hear. So anyway, we normal people hear this like regular Joes. And of course, we're disgusted by it. The fact of the matter is it just shows a complete and total lack of caring for humanity, lack of caring for children. This is supposed to be the more empathetic sex. And yet, when they have power over vulnerable life, they kill it. Really? You're going to convince me that's the more empathetic, more vulnerable sex? Give me a break.
I just have one little
Ernest.
I think for me, it's just two things, right? I think that some people will feel like the way in which she went about discussing it was tasteless. I think that for people listening to it, I did. I think that there's a better, in my personal taste, right? I think there could have been a better way she could have said it, but that's just my personal preference. And I think that's just how she is with a lot of things. Lily Allen, I don't agree with a lot of things that Lily Allen says or how she says it per se. And I think that's the real thing here. However, what I think is important is that everybody's getting abortions. This whole libs, far left, far right stuff. I really get annoyed with that because it's almost as if you're acting like only one, like everybody makes decisions based on their political ideologies, and that's just so immature. And this obsession.
We can look at the reproductive.
The libs.
Yeah, we can look at the reproductive stats, and we know which political party's advocating for abortion and which one isn't. We know which political party's advocating for it, which one's not.
I don't come with that. Like, I'm just saying, for me, this is not a libs thing or whatever. It's really just a matter of taste. And that's what I.
But how could it not be? How could it not be a liberal?
Completely politically charged.
All right, let Jedediah speak. Jedediah.
How could it not be? If liberals are the ones, I mean, just be honest, liberals are the ones that are promoting a pro-abortion culture. Liberals are the ones that are saying this should be celebrated. The word here, Ernest, hold on a second. The word here to be used is these women are celebrating abortions. And you see young women all over TikTok, by the way, and all over social media who are echoing these voices now. So an abortion is something, whether you believe it should be, it was supposed to be safe, legal, and rare. That was the idea when people were advocating back in the day. Pro-abortion advocates were saying safe, legal, and rare. Does this sound rare to you? Oh, every time I have sex, I just run and get an abortion like I went to the dentist.
This shouldn't be rare. Access to healthcare shouldn't be rare. Access to healthcare.
Taylor, no one's talking about access. No one. You have access to a whole bunch of things in society. That doesn't mean you utilize them. These are women that are going into
because when you stigmatize abortion, when you stigmatize abortion, it leads to less abortion access.
Murder. When you stigmatize murder, it leads to less murder.
Yeah, but actually, Taylor, that argument works the other way, because if you trivialize it and you look like you're slightly gleeful and you're very proud of having had 5 abortions, as both of them appeared to come over, and that's just the way we can judge them from that clip. They said, don't be judgmental. Well, actually, you can be when people are apparently trivializing it in the way they were. But I think my point is that the reason Andrew is so exercised is not just because he's anti-abortion, but here's exactly what he's been saying for a long time, which is a lot of women treat it like it's just another thing, when actually it's more serious. And I agree with that. Even though I support women's rights to have an abortion, no one should be like proud or gleeful or joyful or celebratory about it. It should. I just think the tone you use to talk about it should be serious.
Can you understand how that stigmatizing sort of framework would be used to restrict access to abortion, saying, well, you're not pious enough, you haven't repented enough, you're not sorry enough, so you don't deserve access. That is what is used to strip women's
Taylor,
rights.
It should be stigmatizing. It should be stigmatizing for women to talk about abortion like that. This is sick. This is your empowered women now out there saying, oh, I don't know, I had 4 abortions, 5 abortions, 6 abortions, like you went for a root canal.
You go,
I mean, listen, this is not the face of an empowered woman. This is pathetic. It's sad. And this is the product, sorry to say, this is the product of modern feminism and what it has done to women, that now they weaponize their ability to kill, because that's my view. So I'm going to say they weaponize their ability to kill, and they expect society to put a big stamp of approval on it. And people like you do. I'm not doing it. I'm not condoning it. I'm not doing it. I'm calling it out. And if they feel stigmatized by their behavior, then so be it. Maybe that has more to do with their behavior, their crappy behavior, their sick, twisted behavior than it does by what I'm saying about it.
Okay, hold on. Wait. I just want to say this real quick. Let's be real honest here. Even if you personally do not support abortion, you really think that it's a murder, there would be no way, quite frankly, that you want anyone to discuss it. So I think it's intellectually dishonest to act as though we're going to use this extreme of Lily Allen, which I do agree, right? I personally think that the way that Lily Allen discussed it was not the best way. But to be honest, for those who do not support abortion, which I do support a woman's right to choose, there would have never been a way for you to approve it. So you're using the most extreme example as a way to now double down and justify every other belief that you have on this.
That's the dumbest thing. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. We talk about murder openly all the time. What are you talking about?
Support it. So why are we talking about Lily Allen?
Yeah, so what? We talk about things we don't support all the time. What are you talking about?
So here's what Piers Morgan and I are understanding. So let's make this make common sense. Piers and I both, I assume, support a woman's right to choose. I don't know, but I think we do. We both do not agree about the taste of how Lily Allen did it. However, I think for some of you all on this episode, you're not going to ever agree with this. So stop acting like Lily Allen is an example of all women who discuss having abortions, because it's not true. You just want to use it as an example to dismiss the case of abortions, period. And so that's
that's so good. Well, I see. Hang on. Let me respond. I see. What a genius argument. Yes, Andrew, you think that all murder and murderers are bad, so you're going to point at serial killers and say, see how bad that is? Great argument, genius.
No, it's a great point.
What a wonderful argument.
What's the point?
You haven't responded to his argument, so clearly it's pretty good because you have zero.
That was the argument. Do you understand that I can take things that are happening socially, point to the worst of them, even if I don't agree with them, to use that as an example of why it's bad? Why thing bad? Thing bad because look, you can see that why thing bad. Why do you not get this?
Right now, you're crashing out right now.
This is an extreme example.
They never liked abortion. They never did.
This is whether you like abortion, whether you support abortion or not, we're not making up this extreme example. This extreme example exists, and we're commenting on it because there were women all over the country, by the way, that will say things like, my body, my choice, who cares? Oh, yeah. And you know what? It's escalating down to other things like Plan B. People popping Plan Bs like candy now. This stuff is not being taken seriously. Yes. And the bottom line is whether you support abortion or not, this is a serious matter. And the fact that we have women out there talking about it like a trip to the dentist, that is a problem that we need to acknowledge.
Yeah, I have to say, I agree with that. I don't think that the way they spoke about it did them any credit at all. And I think it actually, if I was somebody who was against abortion, that would have really enraged me to see people who have access to free and fair abortions because they're in a country where it's fine, but they talk about it in such a glib manner. I don't like it. Let's just change gears to something else, which is just struck me as a bit odd. So I think Taylor, you said earlier that women, about Charlize Theron, women don't get paid as much as men. In fact, it's just been revealed by the Hollywood Reporter, the Hollywood Bible, that the biggest grossing movie star ever is Scarlett Johansson, which I'm told, staggering though that may seem, and I'm a bit surprised myself because I've appeared in 10 movies as myself, and those movies have grossed $2.4 billion. So I'm a little surprised I'm not in the mix myself. However, she's bigger than Tom Cruise, bigger than Stallone, bigger than Schwarzenegger, bigger than all of them. And the reason apparently is the Avengers. She's been in the whole Avengers stuff, which obviously, and Jurassic Park and other huge grossing films. But she's moaning, as obviously, when you get an accolade like this, the first thing to do is to complain about it, that she's often been cast for sexist reasons. So Andrew, I'll come to you on this. When promoting, I think Jurassic Park Rebirth movie came out this weekend. She said, when I was younger, a lot of the roles I was offered or I went for had their ambitions or character arcs revolving around their own desirability or the male gaze or a male-centered story. That's less frequent, though. Something has shifted. I mean, this idea that we might go to the movies to look at beautiful people, that males may gaze at beautiful women. Is this the most shocking bombshell of the week, Andrew?
Also, it's not just that, how stupid to admit that out loud. Basically, aren't you just admitting that you were a skank for money? Like, if it was really a big deal, you're like, oh, God, the male gaze, they're sexualizing me. Why would you take the role then? Just don't take the role. But apparently, if it pays good enough, she must not mind too much about that whole male gaze thing, huh? Because when it came time for her to collect those millions of dollars based on the male gaze, she definitely took the role. So I would like her to give an explanation for that. Male gaze bad, but I like to contribute to it as much as possible for money. Aren't you just basically admitting that you're a Hollywood prostitute at that point? Like, if it's a conflict with your values, aren't you selling out for money, literally?
Well,
like,
Taylor,
how's
your
that not
eyebrows just
another
nearly
form of
exploded,
prostitution?
so clearly you don't agree with that.
I think it's just shocking the disgusting misogynistic way that Andrew can't help but talk about women. I mean I would say also, by the way,
a woman?
no, women generally
A
seem to
woman?
have
No, I'm sorry. It's not a monolith. If I can critique a woman,
God.
that's not critiquing
Let-
all
you're
women.
not
You see how that
highlighting a
works?
woman's
Freaking
right
all
now.
libs, the whole show.
Yeah.
All libs.
No, these libs. These libs are not all
I'm
libs. You see how
not
that
a lib.
works?
Oh my God, it's so crazy how
Oh, yes,
you
you're
guys,
a lib, lady.
everyone that
Oh, yeah.
doesn't like, you don't
You just so
like is a
happen to
lib.
be liberal on every social policy, but you're not a
Liberal.
liberal. Huh?
Liberals are hardly where I'm at on social issues. Anyway, my point is that Scarlett Johansson, Piers, I don't know that I would classify that quote as moaning. What she seems to be talking about is just how her roles have changed over time. I would note that overwhelmingly women are paid less than men, even though the highest actress might be paid as a woman. But I think that what she's saying is it's not a myth that women are paid less.
The
I'm sorry.
equal pay myth that we can, I mean, that's a whole separate conversation.
I think in
That's a
Hollywood
myth.
now it's pretty well equal pay, isn't it? If you get the big roles, I don't think.
Well, I think,
But
yeah, I
what
think
about-
In music, most of the
about-
biggest stars now are currently women, aren't they? Beyonce, Taylor Swift.
right, but
I mean,
if you
I don't know.
if you-
I can't think of many industries where women are not actually paid at least
Just
or
because
more than men.
just because there are a few very high paid women in entertainment industries doesn't mean that women across the board make more than men. And when you look at other industries like finance or tech
Yeah.
or some of these other,
That's because of, listen,
look at
Taylor,
the
this is
billionaires,
nonsense. That's
primarily
because
men.
of choices that women make. That's because of the number of hours that they work. That's because women take maternity leave. That's because guys work more hours and work harder. There's a whole bunch of reasons we can get into that relate to
We
it.
can
But
adjust. We actually
Can
can
I ask-
adjust
can I
it for
make a
parity
comment?
easily.
Can I make a
God.
comment about Scarlett, though, here for a second? Because I think what's interesting here is that, listen, she made all of her money being a sex symbol, right? She always had the boobs out. That's how she made her money. She made the decision to accept roles where, yes, she was, part of the male gaze. And that's how she made her fame. I find it really interesting, honestly, that she turns 40. She's older. And now all of a sudden she decides, oh, I'm going to negate all that. Could it be that maybe she's, the male gaze isn't looking at her
The wall
in the
is
same way anymore.
undefeated.
She's not
The
getting
wall is
those roles
undefeated.
anymore. And she's now realizing there's a younger woman on the block. There's a hotter woman on the block. Okay, I'm not getting those roles. So
And
let me
here's
hate
by
on
the
them
way, to
now.
complete
now
the
that I made all my money.
to complete the conspiracy theory, is that why Charlize Theron, at the age of 50, has gone out doing podcasts talking about banging 26-year-old guys? Could that be why? Is it to make Hollywood think I'm still hot and desirable?
I've still got it. I've still got it.
I've still got
you
the
wanna
young
cast
male
me?
gaze.
Of course, because there is an insecurity, and
older
women
men
don't
do
like to
it?
talk about this, but there is an insecurity that arises in women, particularly in a beauty-driven industry. Hollywood is all about looks. It's all about the female gaze, the male gaze. You see,
it's misogyny that puts that pressure on
that's
women.
not hatred of women. Taylor, do you know what misogyny means? It means hatred of women. It is not hatred of women to talk about the reality that women, I'm a woman, I'm not a misogynist. Women get more insecure as they age about their looks when they're in a beauty-driven industry. That's why Botox exists. That's why filler exists.
Well, let me go to the expert on the panel when it comes to male gazes at beautiful women. Ernest, your thoughts on this?
No, I mean, to be honest, I think that two things can be true at the same time. People have the right to evolve and also see things reflectively. What you do in your young age, I mean, heaven forbids, you all claim that you all don't support cancel culture, but, a lot of you all would make the case that maybe she did at one point in time when she was younger, may have thought that's what she needed to do and that's how she got her career. But maybe years later, she can get older and reflect and say, hey, some of the stuff I did back then.
And by the way, Ernest,
back,
it's the same. It's the same with men, right? I mean, it's the same with male movie stars. When they cross a point where the female gaze moves from them to a younger, hotter model. It's exactly the same the other way around. You look at it all the time. Look at the hot movie male stars of 20 years ago. They're not there anymore.
Right, but the difference is, though, with those roles, that's actually not true all the way. A lot of these older men do get to evolve and date younger women. What we don't see that much in Hollywood.
No, I mean female moviegoers going to see male movie stars, the reason they go moves from the female gaze at a hot young movie star to something different when they get older, right? So it's in other words, it works the same way.
But that's not the same, though. They can get a range. What I think that happened with Scarlett Johansson, a lot of these actresses, is that what you'll see with men is that they can do both. They can do the Oscar-winning Leonardo DiCaprio films, and they can also do the sex symbol films. They can also do it simultaneously and still get the awards. Versus what we see with women in Hollywood, it seems to be a double standard where prestige films that they can be in and star in, oftentimes they don't get the chance to be the ingenue or play into the sex role. But if they do go that way, they can't have both ways. So Denzel can be both. But Scarlett Johansson couldn't do both most of that.
Okay, yeah, but why? Okay, but why would you complain then? Why would you complain and say, "Oh, the male gaze is so terrible," and then take the role as a woman? Why would you take the role if the male gaze is such a problem for money?
She should just own it.
Hang on. Let him answer the question. Why is it that if you really saw this as a problem from a feminist view, the male gaze, as a female actress who's aspiring, why would you take the role? Aren't you just selling out for money, dude?
I mean, I'm not a woman, so I'm not the one taking the role, but I'm saying something like I'm saying before.
See how they don't answer any questions? They just refuse.
No, I'm answering your question. Did you not let me finish? I'm answering your question. What I'm saying is that you, at the end of the day, it's none of these things, like even the way that people vote for certain elected officials, it's never one size fit all. She has survival. She wanted to get her career. She wanted to do certain things. Does she have regrets? I don't know. But what I will say is that there's a lot of factors that people do when they make their decisions, right? There's certain people where you don't agree with everything on all aspects, but you do some. And I think at a certain point,
Ernest, I hear what you're saying, Ernest. It just seems a little convenient, though. It just seems a little convenient to make all of your money off of being a sex symbol and an overt sex symbol. I mean, you're half naked, this, that. You make all your money that way. You should own it. She should be coming out and saying,
I totally agree. I think I think that the women I admire in the entertainment world are the ones who are smart but are unafraid to say, I use my sex appeal and it makes me tons of money, as well as my smarts, as well as my talent. It's a whole package. Same with the guys, right? If you're a hot movie star who's got talent, you're going to make more money than an ugly one. So it's as simple as that. It's not fair. Life isn't fair.
Hollywood's not fair.
I want to end. This was a bizarre moment last week in the House of Commons here in the United Kingdom. So just for background, we have a woman called Rachel Reeves, who is the first female Chancellor of the Exchequer, so the second most powerful person in the British government, the treasurer, if you like, of the United Kingdom. And she did the one thing which I guess most women who had voted for her would have wished she hadn't done, which is at the weekly Prime Minister's questions with Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, she was openly crying in the background. Now, this followed a very bad week for the government, a very bad week for her. One of the signature policies that had to perform a big U-turn on. She apparently been seen having a blazing row with some colleagues and with the Speaker of the House. She then came out the next day grinning like a Cheshire cat, a little too much for my credible belief, and said that there was a personal issue going on, the details of which have not emerged, and I suspect they won't. Andrew, the problem I have with this is that I think a lot of women will have felt let down, that you finally get a female Chancellor of the Exchequer, and within a few months she's crying in the most high-profile televised moment of each week in the House of Commons, and it looks like it's just because she had a bad week.
Well, gee, who could have predicted this? Who could have predicted that women who are in positions of power may act overtly emotional just based on, well, even the hormones in their body? I am so stunned. I'm shocked. I can't believe that women everywhere are stunned and shocked that women, when they become very emotional, begin crying. It's no shock to me, of course. No shock to anybody else on
Let
this
me ask
panel.
Jedediah.
Inside of your leadership,
Jedediah, as a woman,
scale,
all right, Jedediah, as a woman, are you comfortable with what you're hearing from Andrew there?
I actually am comfortable with it, to be completely honest, because the truth is that men and women are different and we are emotional. And I kind of wear the fact that I have an emotional cycle that goes like this throughout the month, like we all do, like a badge of honor, because it's what makes me a woman. The thing is, you can't be in a leadership position and act like that. As an example, do y'all remember John Boehner? John Boehner was a disaster. He was always crying. So this is not exclusive to women. Let's just say that this can happen.
I totally agree. If this had been, I mean, I think if it had been a man, a male Chancellor Exchequer crying, he'd have got whacked even more.
Well, that's the difference, because if you remember,
Howard Dean got ran out for a
memes,
scream. I mean, come on.
People were making fun of him all the time. He was the laughing stock. The difference is here, a lot of people jump and make excuses. Well, she had a bad day. Honestly, I don't care that you had a bad day. You're in a leadership position. I mean, the bond market had a sell-off because this woman was crying.
Yeah.
These have real ramifications. So I think what Andrew's getting at is, listen, men and women are different. And it does beg the question, if we are naturally more emotional, and we are by nature.
Women are not.
We are.
No, they're not.
Listen,
yes, they are.
Look at how
we
Yes,
are.
they are.
All right, Taylor, I have a question for you. Taylor, if Donald
silly, Taylor.
If Donald Trump's bottom lip began to tremble and he started crying on national TV, when he was addressing the Congress or something, I mean, come on, you'd absolutely murder him.
He's having tantrums every week. He's having emotional
meltdowns.
He isn't crying. Give me a break. He's not
That's
crying.
not the same thing.
Have you ever seen Donald Trump cry in public?
Okay, I'm not talking about crying. If he listen, here's the thing. Andrew does not like women having any type of emotion outside of nodding their head.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
He didn't actually say that. He said that. He said women. Ernest, hang on. He didn't actually say. Hang on. You're missing. Hang on. Stop talking, Ernest. Ernest.
I'm acting like Andrew right now.
Ernest. Stop talking for a moment.
You're acting like
all Andrew said was women are more emotional. He wasn't surprised, right? He wasn't sort of damning women for being emotional. He just said they are more emotional. Do you dispute that?
Yeah. Well, and she actually said no, they're not. How would you ever even dispute this? It's objectively true that the hormone functions that are inside of women are different than the ones that are inside of men. That is objectively true in general. Can you point to some women who are more? Hang on. Can you point to an outlier of some women? Hang on. I'm almost done. Calm down. Can you point to some women? Can you point to some women and say that they're more emotionally stable? Sure, but on average, women have far more emotional regularity than men do. In fact, they have one time of the month.
Taylor, would you say you're more emotional than your male colleagues when you worked with men?
Oh gosh, I've worked with men that have cried in my arms, and it's so funny for Andrew to say this. Andrew,
those aren't men, honey.
Andrew is the one that is out. Andrew is the one that is losing his mind on this panel, screaming and shouting and making fun and doing all these.
Screamed and shouted at anybody. What are you talking about?
Please
do you think that, like, if you just assert lies, that people who watch this aren't going to be able to see that they're clearly lies?
Right now, shouting over me. Listen to this. This is crazy. You have absolutely
That's not shouting. That's not shouting.
Taylor, let me ask you this.
I think those hoop earrings are hurting your brain, lady.
We can do this for a second, woman to woman, Taylor, because I will say to you, Taylor, there is no question about it that when you look at Taylor, when you look at a man, his testosterone is pretty steady. His whether you like it or not, his hormones are steady. That's what comprises a man. When you look at our hormones, they do this naturally. That's why we have a cycle. That's why we have the beautiful gift of being able to make babies. That's what makes women women. So yes, there can be an outlier over here and there. John Boehner, I use the example of John Boehner, but it's very, very safe to say that in general, women are more emotional than men. And that does beg the question then, if women are in leadership roles where there are serious ramifications like a bond market sell-off, if that woman is seen crying, is that a good look overall for the country? The answer is no. Now, we can sit and have a debate over whether women should be in positions of power or not, but we can't have a debate over whether women are more emotional, because hormonally, that's just a fact.
Taylor?
Not her, but her colleagues are crying in her arms, though. They're crying in her arms.
I mean, yeah, I had a colleague that cried after something horrific happened.
That's not what you said. You said that you made it sound like men were coming to you and falling to pieces and they were more emotional.
I said I had a male colleague cry in my arms. I've witnessed somebody die in front of my face at my job because
And
I'm
do
a
you
journalist.
think,
that's
though,
that's
that
not the
men
same
are more
thing.
emotional? Yeah, and I know. It's so ridiculous, your
Absolutely,
straw
it's
mans.
the same.
Is it the case that you, when you work with other men, that you're generally more emotional than them or not? That's the question.
Listen to you crash out. Talking
I
about
don't know
more
why you won't answer. Why can't you answer
But
the
is it
question,
true?
lady?
Just answer it.
shouting like a little
Yeah, just
child.
yes or no. You're crashing
I-
out. Oh my God, you're crashing out. I don't know how to answer questions. Oh my God, just answer the question, lady.
Talking about how women are more emotional as you are
Are
literally
you more emotional than your male colleagues generally or not? Can you answer yes or no? That would be great.
Personalities and voices are we going to get on
Are
this?
you ever going to answer the question?
To say I answered it many, many times to say once
Okay,
again.
so yes or no would be great.
You cannot. You're like a little petulant child.
Yes or no?
You're
Yes or no?
screaming and making these silly
I'm not
voices.
screaming. I'm holding you to account. Me talking is not
is it yes or
screaming.
no?
You ignoramus. Yes or no?
I think look at the example right here on this panel. That Andrew is absolutely
Still not
losing
answering
his
the question, lady. Answer the question,
Women are
lady.
not
Answer the
inherently
question,
more-
lady.
See how you keep calling me lady? You won't call me by my name
Just
because
answer
you
the question. I don't remember your name. Why am I supposed to remember your name?
know
Answer
who
the
I-
question.
know who I am.
Can you
Anyway,
answer
my
the
point-
question?
this is crazy. Women are not
Yes or
inherently
no?
women are
They're
not
not. You're
inherently
saying
they're not the-
So you're
She
not
said
just
women are
honoring biology.
inherently angry.
Oh,
That's
by
what
the
she's
way.
saying. Are you not hearing what she's saying?
It's not.
You want her
Yeah.
to speak the way you want to speak, but she
Wait a
answered your
second. I'm
question.
sorry.
All right, let me
Well, she
ask
did
Taylor a
answer
different
my
question. All right,
question.
hang on.
That's what she
Taylor, let me
said.
ask Taylor.
Answer the question I
Taylor.
didn't ask her.
Taylor, in relation to Rachel Reeves crying in the House of Commons, did she let the sisterhood down? Would it have been better
No.
for her to hold
I
it
can answer
in?
that question. No.
Ernest, you're not called Taylor.
Hold
Taylor.
it. Look at that. They can answer questions. Yes.
Taylor?
Oh my God, listen to this man just screeching. Anyway, I will say
Yeah,
that I
everyone
think
talking is screeching.
you are
Everyone,
screeching.
if you're talking, you're screeching.
Listen to this. How this guy thinks he's like
Oh my
running the
God.
panel.
Oh my God. Clutch your pearls harder, lady. Just answer the
Oh my
questions you're
God.
asked.
It's so funny how you continue.
Would you
to
like
call
me to mail you a pearl necklace so you can tug it when we're on the panel next time?
Oh, the
Oh,
one
Oh, I can't believe it. Oh, how I'm treated is so terrible. Just answer the
Listen to
questions.
this
And then you
meltdown
won't
that
have this
this guy-
problem.
Piers,
Oh,
can
it's
I
a
have the
meltdown
opportunity?
now.
Okay, Taylor, answer my question, Taylor.
Yes, absolutely. So I think that basically, generally, I take your point that any politician that shows emotion is often, or sadness rather, like crying, is often stigmatized for it. But women are
I think so to be clear, I think it depends on the circumstance, right? So if there was a terrible event, right, and a prime minister or a chancellor came out and got emotional talking about a terrible national tragedy, of course. No one's going to ever think anything other than that's a human emotion. I think the feeling here was that things had just got on top of her. It had been a bad week at work. She'd had a few rows before she came out, and she just lost it in public. And it was that upset other women in particular who went, come on, you're the first female chancellor. Don't do this to us.
Well, because again, women are held to this really, really intense standard. And so, yes, any sort of display of emotion like that is going to be weaponized against them by people like this man or whatever who's on the panel who can't stop shouting. But I will say that, you know, this idea that male leaders are not emotional, here he is talking over me right now.
Well, I mean, you can't help but talk about me every 5 seconds, lady. Like, what do you want me to say? You can't reference me and then say I'm not allowed to respond. You can't
Taylor,
be like
to reference
Vic,
something
man.
that you said. Taylor, to reference something that you said.
Hang on, I want to hear Taylor answer the question. Taylor.
Thank you, Piers. To finish my point, I will say that this idea that male leaders aren't emotional, I think is just completely wrong, because I think they're emotional in different ways. Society stigmatizes different forms of emotion in man. The way that a lot of men express their emotion as political leaders is anger. And what Ernest was talking about earlier of Donald Trump being erratic, irrational, emotional, he is extremely emotional. We have plenty of male leaders that are highly emotional, and they might not be crying, but I would say that they're very intense emotions do have significant political and economic consequences. So I think it's good to destigmatize emotion, but let's not act like there's not sexism here.
And let's also give you credit, Taylor. You probably had a harder time from Andrew Wilson in the last hour than Rachel Reeves got from her colleagues, and you haven't cried. So I think that should be acknowledged.
I'm here.
Well,
I've
I
been
mean,
here for 2 years and
give me
have not
another
cried.
hour.
Please, you just whine and whine and whine.
You know what? I think
Well, I
you
don't
two.
know. So the whole thing is like, you can see even on this panel, holding women accountable is basically impossible. They don't even answer questions. Like, we asked this lady, I don't know how many questions, and she answers every question except the one we asked her, just reframes the entire debate every time. You would have had a way less hard, it would have been way less hard for you if you would have just actually answered anything we asked you.
Simply cannot let women speak. You'll note, by the way, you'll note how he speaks to me. He doesn't give me the courtesy of speaking with my name. He's been mocking.
You called me this man. What are you talking about?
Yeah, finally.
Yeah, what do you mean? Am I going, oh my God, she called me this man. Oh, she's so disrespectful. Oh.
This disrespectful voice. It's really something to watch. And I think when we're talking about emotion and we have a man on this very panel who can't help but do these strange little voices and interrupt every 2 seconds and get mad that he's not.
What I find interesting, can I just say, Taylor, what I find interesting, hold on a second, 1 second.
Lady.
What I find interesting about this panel is that, Taylor, you chose, to be honest, you chose to talk about sexism and to say, well, women have, you know, an unfair advantage in this and they're stigmatized in that, and to go after Andrew, when in fact I've been saying a lot of the same things that he's been saying, but you chose to make it about sexism. You chose to, because it's an easy target. Hold on a second. Because it's an easy target.
Ma'am, you are not.
But it's an easy target. It's an easy target to say the man on the panel. The bottom line is that women.
Here's the man on the panel.
Taylor, here's the bottom line.
Hey, ma'am, why don't you
want to be treated as an equal to a man? If you want to be treated as an equal to a man, then it can't always be sexism this or misogyny this.
Nobody's saying that all the men on this panel are sexist. They're saying that this guy, Andrew, will not.
It's the approach. Hold on, let me. So I want to say this. It's not about
destigmatize emotion, except Andrews.
But instead of crying sexism, just answer the questions, right? We can
just answer the question.
The way that he
as women,
respectfully, if you listen,
here comes the tone policing.
It's about gender, because there's 3 men on this panel. It's about approach. None of us have called Taylor out of panel. None of us are berating her. You see how he's disrespecting me, and I haven't even went there.
But what I'm saying to you, Ernest, listen, as a woman, I'm saying to you, as a woman, instead of crying sexism, I'm not going to sit here and cry sexism or cry misogyny when somebody comes at me. I'm going to answer the question, and I'm going to come back with facts.
Okay.
So that's all I'm saying.
You aligned yourself with Andrew. Yeah,
hold on. So let me say this.
I'm not aligning myself with anyone. I gave you my opinion.
And that's why you will never say sexism, because the other men on this panel agree with you. I don't agree with you on a lot of points, but I'm respecting you. That's why you can't say sexism. The other 2 men, Pierce disagrees with Taylor, but Pierce is not disrespecting Taylor, and she's not calling him sexist.
Listen, Andrew can defend himself.
It's disrespectful. It's disrespectful to purposely obfuscate and avoid the questions you're being asked. That is not respect. That is a form of the greatest form of disrespect, not tone, dude. Refusing to answer the questions you're asked, that's what's disrespectful.
And doing all of these silly little voices and refusing to call me by my name, and just by basically throwing a little temper tantrum.
Why don't we try and end on a happy note? I want Andrew and Taylor to end by saying something nice about each other to each other. Andrew, you go first. Something nice about Taylor.
He's alive. That's something nice. He's alive. He's alive.
Andrew, something nice about Taylor.
Well, I mean, it doesn't look like she's going bald. I think that's good.
Taylor, something nice about
women
Andrew.
in that age bracket. A lot of women in that age bracket go bald. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe it's all the plastic. I don't know.
I can't say the same thing for Andrew's hairline, but I guess he has a nice.
It's nicer than your hairline.
Come on, Taylor. One compliment.
Nicer than your hairline.
Well, now here he is, negating what he just said about my hair. Piers, I don't think Andrew is capable of saying something.
So you can rise to a higher place, Taylor. Say something nice about him.
I said I liked his shirt. I think he's got a nice shirt on, and that is really something.
Yeah, we like flannel.
On that happy note, we will leave it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Piers.